Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral and welcome to HitScan. I'm joined here with Miska as per usual.
Hello.
And we got a few more bits of news that we found out. I guess the main one, which is a bit more of a PSA, is that Reyna was nerfed. It wasn't in the patch notes and it's really odd.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is intentional or unintentional, a bug fix or nerf. It's kind of hard to say really. All in all, Reyna has received a change or tweak that's kind of a nerf. This is how it goes. So if this is confusing, I'll try to be just very clear and repeat it again. But the orbs that you use for either devour, the self-heal, or dismiss, the intangible state, have to now be on your screen when you use them. They can't be to your side. So for example, if you're trying to heal, you can't press the orb when it's on your screen and then turn and look completely away from it. It has to be on your screen. Previously, you had to just be in LOS from the orb to the Reyna. So if the orb could basically see you in a way, then you could get it. So if you pressed heal on it and you turned around before, you could still heal up to full. Now if you press heal on it and then you turn around after a little bit so it's not on your screen, you might just heal 20-30 HP. That's been throwing some people off last night and just the last couple nights, I guess. And all in all, undocumented change, maybe nerf, maybe bug fix, maybe just some tweak or unintentional behavior. We don't know, but it's in, and it's kind of something that Riot are, well, hopefully going to comment on and definitely need to clear up because it's confusing a lot of players out there.
Yeah, the main thing we wanted to do, if there is any Reyna mains that watch us, is to be aware of this. A lot of people sort of came out in the Reddit comments because this came from a Reddit thread. We've linked it in the description below, with people being like, oh, so that's what it was. I was like trying to heal myself and only healing 15 health. That was not cool. So I think when it comes to other stuff that I wanted to mention to get the PSA out to, obviously, you guys have used, but also Riot in cases too. A post came from Mick1 on the subreddit talking about how Brim smokes are really exploitable when it comes to one-way. So you can see that this player is literally finding an angle that he can sit just on top of the smoke. He can see the whole way down C long with the operator kind of clearly, not perfectly, but of course the person that's looking towards him can't see him at all. So this is like a one-way that seems really exploitable. I think people like Morello in the past have said that Cypher or Viper one-ways, the ones that you could throw on top of boxes, for example, they're okay with that because it's kind of cool, and people like Viper really need that boost up somewhere, right? They need some cool stuff that they can do. But this, I don't know, Miska, this seems like a bit of a problem, and I imagine it became a problem when they changed how the outsides of the smokes work for them to be a bit clearer. When you leave a smoke, right? It's a lot easier to see out of it once you leave it.
It's probably that, and also the fact that this person is peeking out of the top of the smoke, so it might just be a little bit more misaligned there with where the effect starts versus where the visual change happens. So there might be something with the top of the smoke, and also, yeah, the recent change to the smokes that mostly affected the Brimstone smoke. So all in all, yeah, this is definitely a bit extreme, especially because this person can see that player's entire body. It's not a matter of having like a pixel angle or something, like in Counter-Strike, where someone sits on like a dumb pixel angle that you can't see at all, or if you can only see a few pixels of that body covering up the wall in the back or something like that. This is a pretty clear, just broken one-way, so hopefully this gets addressed. It's probably something they can just fix by dealing with the Brimstone smoke height a little bit. I don't know if there's going to be more of these sort of changes, but yeah, they can probably figure out the size of the effect versus the visual side of the smoke and deal with something there, just tweak it in some way. So yeah, I'm no game developer, I don't know exactly how this works internally in the game, but hope Riot sort of do something around this, because yeah, that's a little bit too much.
We get a lot of intel from Morello, so we do have a few clips to highlight. Not from the recent stream, he actually took the time off to just play a bit of Vermintide and chill out, but we did find some other clips from earlier this week that we didn't spot before that were really good. The first one I want to highlight, seeing as we mentioned Raina, is there was this Gorgon agent skin created yet again on the subreddit. This was put together by Diamusa, and this question was brought up to Morello. Can we see skins like the one that I'm showing you on screen in game? And this is what Morello had to say.
Use skins for agents. It's something we're investigating, cosmetics for agents, but nothing super soon. And I've said this before, but I wanted to share that we won't do it if it damages competitive integrity or game clarity. So we want to find a way to do them right so that you don't have to turn them off on tournaments for them to be cool.
Another clip from Morello as well, talking about why they are putting in 6 agents a year, because some people just like myself, have thought that it's maybe a little bit too much, but I'm starting to be won over a little bit, especially about this argument from this Morello clip from his stream just a couple days ago.
I think 6 agents a year is just right. I was part of making that decision, capital body. Reason is, I think agents that we should add should be meaningful. They will be disruptive. But also, our game isn't a game where it's like we have new combat models coming into the game. When we release an agent, they're not a new way to fight. They're a new way to play in the tactical space. They're a new way to strategize. You still are using the same guns. So I think that gives us a lot of room. And there's a lot more design space on the table. I think people, and I said this last time, I'd like to get this recorded, so maybe clip this. I think when people ask about skin amount, character amounts, they're actually asking some other question. Nobody gives a shit how many characters we're adding. They give a shit about risks they worry about. With adding too many characters or adding too few characters. That question is a surface question. It doesn't actually, like, it is literally just a number. What are we trying to achieve with that number? What are the worries, right? I think the big worry a lot of players have that's too many comes around to, are you going to be in Powercreep? Are you going to ruin the game, basically? I mean, the really simple version is you're going to ruin the game by adding all this content. That's people's concern, right? And I think they mean Powercreep, making it so that we're just have this constant thing where we're just making stronger versions of the same thing, or it's going to be disruptive to the meta and nobody can settle down on it. I think being disruptive to the meta is a good thing in a lot of ways. Like, a new option coming into play and forcing you to change your strategies and adapt is a key part of Valorant. You have to be good and you have to be flexible to be competitive. And you have to learn how to play against new stuff. You have to constantly be updating your strategy. We think that both keeps it fresh, but we also think that keeps it, so that the kind of actual strategy, it's not just for novelty's sake, it's so that your actual strategies can change with new tools that come online.
So yeah, a little bit of a long talk there, but all in all, I definitely agree with what he's saying here. It's not so much about just being scared of it being too many. You kind of have to know exactly why that is and why that could be a worry, and why maybe some other games you've played have had too many different new characters being added, or at least characters being added in a way that just doesn't feel like it works with the game. And if I think about Reyna and I think about the way that she fits into the game now, I'm really not too worried about seeing new characters. Having a new one be in the game in about 3 weeks from now feels very approachable. It feels very doable. It feels like that's a character that can get integrated into the roster fast enough and feel like they fit in without disrupting too much. And in a way as well, Morello says that as well in the clips, that it's alright to have some disruption, to have some comps and different characters feel very different and feel very difficult to play all of a sudden. You gotta have a little bit disruption to change up meta and to make things feel interesting still, because otherwise they get a little bit too stale. If they don't have enough punch and they don't really do much, then nothing changes. If they have too much punch, then it's just gonna be a little bit annoying to deal with. But obviously it's in Riot's best interest to keep things stable, yet also keep new content flowing. So I'm excited, and especially thinking back about Raina and how she works with the game now, I'm a lot more relieved. I don't know what you think, Ryan.
I agree, but I think it's really easy for Riot to bounce Reyna, considering all her kit is rather selfish. It doesn't really interact with other agents on her team. It's all about making the individual agent Reyna as good as possible. It wasn't like Brigitte in Overwatch. It wasn't her in a vacuum that was too strong. It was when she interacted with tanks and other supports that made her, you know, really obnoxious to deal with. So if they add in more agents or a bit more utility based, those 2 months might not be enough time to make sure they're balancing the game, and that's going to be awkward, but Morello seemed confident enough to be able to keep up with that cadence. Also, real quick, there are some pretty big tournaments going on in the esports scene. In EU right now are the Vitality Finals with some big teams in there. The Fabricans, G2 making their debut, Party Pirates and Prodigy. And also a bit later on, you've got the Pulse Invitational Finals, which I got to cast a little bit over the weekend, and this is probably the best play to check out. Sub Rose if he's going to not check the angle, but look at the spray and Wardell getting 4! Nobody checks it. Can he get the ace? Of course he can. All of the stuff that we've mentioned in this video are all in the description, so if you want to check them out, that's the place to find them. But there is one thing that we wanted to finish this video on, and that was Morello talking about power creep.
So recently there's been a little bit more of a discussion, I guess, around balance and around lifespan of a game like Valorant, now that we're past the launch and we know what cadence of content will be like and such. So power creep is something that, if you don't know, all in all, as a game updates and they add more stuff, characters get a bit out of control from just being buffed too much or being just a little bit too good or replacing other characters entirely. Say another character gets some type of smoke that's just better than Omen or Brimstone, and it's just better on paper flat out in every single situation. All of a sudden that character is just that tier above. And it's things like that, tweaks and maybe even damaging abilities and things like that can just spiral out of control. One gets a little bit too good to bring another character up, you buff them even more, and then you sort of get this weird spiral that just brings a character from being in check and in control to being completely out of control and dominating the game and sort of being a must pick. All in all, Powercreep, something that's talked about a lot, and Morello talked about it. We did cut it out of a video because it was similar to some other answers, but we thought we'd put it at the end of this video just so you guys could have a look at that if you wanted to get a bit of a dev perspective on power creep and such. Morello talked about it in our interview. We cut it out because, yeah, it was just similar to some other things we talked about shortly after, but here it is for all of you to enjoy.
We're going to let the clip play us out, so thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. It certainly helps us out. And this is Morello talking about power creep. Take care.
We really want to make sure what we want to preserve is basically strengths and weaknesses on characters that create choice competition. And we want to keep the identity of a character to be, and I've talked about this in the power creep conversations we've had. I think this is a huge problem we have in League of Legends. I think it's a massive problem in Overwatch. I think it's a problem in most games that have more kind of RPG style combat, right? And I think for us, what we want to do is, like, when we say something like Sage is the premier staller, what we want to do is go, and sometimes we might change these identities based on what we learn on, and if we need to, we can. But we go, let's make sure that nobody else does the reactive stall. Like 5 guys are rushing the site, and I can pull out my skills and just use them to stop them, right? And buy my team time to rotate. We wouldn't want another character to do this to that degree. Like, they might have some stalling, but we should go, if you want the best staller, you should pick Sage. That other character who has stalling should be great at something else, and you could splash into it. You know, we have a lot of splash around there, like Jet has a little bit of, you know, we have all sorts of value kind of overlapped and sprinkled across the roster, but the ones that are identities need to be kind of protected. Brimstone is the best at burst execute smoker. So what we wouldn't want to do is take efforts to make Omen and Viper as good a burst execute smokers. We'd want them to be other things. Oh, is that too powerful? Hey, how can we make him worse at not doing that part so that you're taking more risks, or make the window smaller for you to have to execute so it's more predictable? Is he the most predictable smoker as a weaker, or as a weakness? Those kinds of things are the ways we want to think about the balance. And so that's how it kind of comes back to Sage here too, for what we were talking about, right? Is like, hey, let's not, even though we've nerfed her stalling, let's still make sure that this is still what great stalling looks like. It's also defines why we removed the slow from Cypher's kit, because it was making Cypher a really good staller also, a reactive staller, where instead he should be this proactive kind of super good map control flank watch guy that creates pressure and slows a little bit. He stalls a little bit, but a lot more he should be like, I have to watch one angle because the other angles are covered. I don't have to worry about people. I can cover one site with one guy on all the angles, or help my friends cover their site while I cover a site, and they just extend our bodies across the map. You know, that, so if he's stalling as well as Sage, you know, that starts getting really, really spooky.